I let my best friend stay in my house for a month and came back to a life I did not recognize. I never thought one small favor could quietly rearrange my entire life without me even noticing. That's the scariest part. Nothing exploded. No big fight. No obvious betrayal at first. Just small changes that stacked up like invisible bricks. Until one day I walked back into my own home and felt like a stranger. 2 months ago, my best friend Lena called me crying at 2 a.m. She had just broken up with her boyfriend of 5 years. They lived together, shared a dog, shared bills, shared furniture, and now suddenly she had nowhere to go. Her parents lived 3 states away and her job was here. She didn't want to move back and start over. I had a spare room. It felt obvious. I told her she could stay with me for a month, just until she found a place. Lena and I had been friends since college. We survived exams, heartbreaks, terrible roommates, and late-night dinners together. She was the person who knew every embarrassing story about me and still stayed. I trusted her without hesitation. Letting her stay felt natural, like helping family. The first week was fine. Actually, it was nice. We cooked together, watched movies, talked about her breakup, laughed about old memories. I felt good knowing I was helping her. She kept saying thank you, promising it was temporary. Then small things started changing. At first, it was harmless. She rearranged the kitchen cabinets because it made more sense. I opened drawers and couldn't find anything. She moved my coffee mugs, my spices, even my plates. I told myself she was just trying to be helpful. Then she started buying groceries without asking. Again, I told myself she was contributing, but she would throw away my food if it didn't fit her diet. One day I came home and my favorite snacks were gone because they were unhealthy. It annoyed me, but I didn't want to sound ungrateful or petty. The second week she started inviting people over. At first it was 1 or 2 friends, then it became groups. My quiet apartment turned into a social hub. I would come home from work and find strangers sitting on my couch like it was a cafe. Lena would introduce me casually, as if I were the guest. I tried to talk to her about it gently. She apologized and said she just needed distraction from the breakup. I understood. Breakups are messy. I let it slide. But something inside me started feeling unsettled, like my space was shrinking. The third week I noticed my clothes were missing. Lena had borrowed a jacket without asking, then a pair of shoes, then a dress every time. I asked, she laughed and said, "We are the same size. It is fine." It did not feel fine. I had never touched her things without permission when we lived in dorms, but again I swallowed it. The turning point came when I had to travel for work for 10 days. I hesitated before leaving. Something in my gut told me I should not, but Lena assured me she would take care of the apartment. She even said she would clean everything so I would come back to a fresh home. I thanked her and left. During the trip, she barely texted. I figured she was busy. On the 9th day, my neighbor messaged me asking if I had moved out. I laughed, confused. He said there were new people coming in and out constantly and he thought I had sublet the place. My stomach dropped. I called Lena. She did not answer. I texted, no reply. I tried again later. Still nothing. I told myself not to overthink. Maybe she was just out. When I finally returned, I opened my apartment door and froze. My living room looked different, not messy, different. The couch was moved, my rug replaced, my wall art gone. There were plants I had never seen before. The air even smelled different, like a new candle scent I did not recognize. Then I noticed shoes by the door, more than 2 pairs. I walked further in and heard voices. To people I had never met were sitting at my dining table working on laptops. They looked up at me like I was interrupting. I stood there holding my suitcase, trying to process what I was seeing. Lena walked out of the kitchen smiling like nothing was wrong. She hugged me and said, "You were back early." I told her I had returned exactly when I said I would. She brushed it off and introduced the strangers as her friends who needed a place to work sometimes. I looked around and realized half my decorations were gone. My bookshelf had been reorganized by color. My framed photos were missing. I went to my bedroom. Even that felt off. My sheets were changed, my desk rearranged, my drawers slightly open. It felt like someone had lived inside my personal bubble. That night, I could not sleep. I kept noticing more changes. My bathroom products replaced, my laundry basket gone. Even my alarm clock had been swapped for a different one. The next morning I confronted Lena calmly. I asked why she had rearranged everything and who those people were. She looked genuinely confused. By my reaction, she said she thought she was helping improve the space, and that her friends only came over occasionally. She said I was overreacting. That word hit harder than anything else. I realized something in that moment. She did not see it as my home anymore. She saw it as our home, maybe even more hers than mine. The boundaries had blurred so gradually that she did not even notice crossing them. I asked her when she planned to move out. She looked shocked. She said she thought she could stay longer since things were going well. She had even told her co-workers she had settled in. I felt guilty for wanting my own space back, which sounds ridiculous now, but at the time, I kept thinking about her breakup, her emotions, her struggles. I did not want to be the villain in her story. Days passed and the tension grew. I started avoiding my own living room. I ate dinner in my bedroom. I felt like a guest who had overstayed. One evening, I overheard her telling someone on the phone that she basically lives alone because I am never around. I was standing in the hallway when she said it. That is when something inside me finally clicked into place. I realized kindness without boundaries is not kindness, it is self-erasure. The next day I sat her down and told her she had 2 weeks to find another place. I did not yell, I did not accuse, I just stated it clearly. She cried. She said she thought I understood her situation. She said she felt abandoned again. Hearing that hurt more than I expected, but for the first time in weeks I did not change my mind. The 2 weeks were awkward. She became distant. The stranger stopped coming slowly. The apartment returned to its original state, but it felt scarred like walls that had heard too much. When she finally left, she hugged me politely, thanked me, and walked out with her bags. The door closed and silence filled the space, real silence, the kind I had not realized I missed. I walked around the apartment that night, touching objects like I was reintroducing myself to them. My mug, my couch, my bookshelf. It felt strange that something so simple could feel so emotional. We still text occasionally, but the friendship is not the same. There is no big fight to point at, just a quiet understanding that we crossed into a territory we could not fully return from. The lesson was not about her, it was about me. I learned that being supportive does not mean surrendering your comfort, that generosity needs limits or it turns into resentment, and that sometimes the hardest thing is not helping someone in pain but telling them when the help has to end. I still believe in kindness, I just believe now that it needs a door you can close. So tell me honestly, if you came back home and felt like a stranger in your own space, would you stay silent to keep the peace, or would you speak up and risk the friendship? And if you enjoyed this video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more real dramatic stories every week.